Hello and welcome to Learn, Do, Become Radio. My name is Alia, and in today's podcast, I'm going to be talking all about the 2-minute rule and how it has been so life-changing for me and my family in this stage of life that we're in. And I'll be sharing a few fun examples from my own life of how I've used the 2-minute rule recently. Now, if you're brand new here at Learn to Become, we help people who are overwhelmed with the details of life to create simple systems so they can do what matters most. And I think you're going to find that this little system of using the 2-minute rule will free up so much of your time, your mental energy, and it will help you get a lot of good things done. So I'm excited to dive right into it. The show notes for this podcast can be found at learndobecome.com/episode 277. So I'll include some pictures and all the written version there if you'd like to go check it out. And if you'll also excuse my scratchy voice today, our whole family is on the tail end of our little cold that we had. So we're doing better, but definitely sound a little worse for wear. So I'll keep this short and sweet so you don't have to listen to a scratchy voice for too long. But we're super happy and grateful to have you joining here on the podcast. So I want to start out by sharing a few principles from a past podcast that I'll link on the show notes called 5 Ways to Make Time for Projects and Secrets of the 2-Minute Rule. This is from probably a little over a year ago, and there are some really good gems here on this podcast page. Basically, we talk all about how if you have a 2-minute or less task that you're going to put on a to-do list, or you're going to start writing down a bunch of tasks that really could be done in 2 minutes or less, just go ahead and do them. It'll probably take you longer to actually write down the task than it would to just do the task. But some people reach out to us and say, well, what if I have 100 or 200 or 500 2-minute tasks? Am I supposed to just drop everything in my life and say, well, I can't do any of my other responsibilities because I have a million tasks to do? That's not what we're suggesting at all. Instead, if we have hundreds of 2-minute or less tasks, we obviously can't do those right then and there because we would spend all day on them. But we have the idea to group them into different categories. So for example, you might have a series of tasks that can only be done on the computer, or things that relate to people you need to email, or errands you need to run, or different things around the house, or even in a certain room of the house. So as we group our 2-minute or less tasks, this will allow us to hone in on them in each category and figure out when we can fit essentially project time to work on these group tasks. And I'm going to share an example of how I turned my 2-minute tasks into a home project that I just completed a couple days ago. And I haven't done one of these before. I heard this idea from April, my mom, and I thought, oh, that's a great idea. Maybe I'll have to use that one day. And the time finally came, and I was like, wow, this really is a game changer. I want to share this with the whole podcast so that everyone can have a chance to check it out and maybe try it out on their own. So I basically had a couple months where I was just super sick. I was in my first trimester of pregnancy, wasn't feeling great, wasn't my best time at all, and I spent most of my days laying on the couch. I was not very productive by the world's standards of productivity. I was just trying to keep myself from not feeling too terrible, taking care of my toddler during the day. My husband is a medical student in his first year, so we've got a lot going on. We were pretty busy, and the 2-minute or less household tasks were just not going to get done right then. It was just not the right time. So as I was laying on the couch, or if I was in my son's room when he was playing toys, or if I was laying down at the end of a day, I would sometimes have these thoughts in my head of, oh, I should do that, or oh, that would be a good task to check off, or oh, I need to do that at some point. And I would never get to those things because I just didn't feel good. So instead of feeling discouraged and letting that list build up in my head, I did a mind sweep. And that's essentially where I just got a digital note and I wrote down all the different things around the house that were bothering me, all the little things that could be done in 2 minutes or less, but I just didn't have the energy to do those tasks. So I wrote them all down, started compiling a list, and then I put that safely into my someday projects list because I thought, I don't have energy right now to make this a current project, It's not going to be one of my next in line projects quite yet because it's not necessarily urgent and I don't need to do it, but I would like to do it someday. So then a few months later, after I wrote down all these tasks, I believe I wrote them down in November, and then I actually got to making it one of my current projects in February. And I said, this makes sense to do it right now. It's really cold outside. We have a stretch of days that are in the negatives, and the temperature is just way too cold to be outside and take a toddler outside. So I said, great, this is the perfect opportunity to get some stuff done around the house, and I can tackle this project. Now, we encourage everyone to have no more than 7 to 8 current projects on their list at any given time throughout the month. And some projects will take the entire month. And some projects might be able to be done in a day or a couple days if they're having a lot of focused project time to work on them. So this is an example of a project for me that only took about a day. I stretched it out throughout the day so we didn't have to do it all in one sitting, but we can kind of break it up and fit it into our day where applicable. And then as the day went on, we were able to just start knocking out the tasks on our list. And it was really fun to work on it with my son. He was alongside me for most of it. And I was able to take some pictures. It kind of motivated me. I said, I want to take a picture of each thing that I do just to kind of check it off, not only on my list and mentally, but also to have a little visual of all the different things that we did together that weren't super hard and weren't super monumental by any means, but they definitely made an impact in how I felt and how our home felt. So I'm going to give a few examples. I'll read off the ones that I did in this little working session of my mini project. And then I'll also post the pictures on our show notes page. Again, that can be found at learndobecome.com/episode 277. So the first thing on this list was to move the toys off the top of the fridge and put them with the other toys in our toy rotation boxes. Now, we have a few random toys that ended up on the top of the refrigerator, probably because our son was either too young for them, he was trying to eat them, or they were really messy, like the kitchen food, for example. He loves playing with it, but it is always so messy all around the house and becomes kind of a tripping hazard. So we kind of had this little collection above our fridge of just random toys that weren't supposed to be there, but every time something was either inconvenient or unsafe, we just said, all right, it's going on top of the fridge, and it will kind of sit there for a while. So it took me 2 minutes or less to get all those toys off the refrigerator, put them in our toy rotation boxes, and then hopefully in a few months, when he's a little bit more ready for those toys, we'll be able to bring them back out, and they'll be good as new. And the next was to move the silverware drawer to a shelf in our pantry since our son has been able to reach everything in the drawers. We had our silverware drawer and some knives in our drawer, which was pretty high up there, but our son has grown quite a bit since we've been here almost a year in this apartment, and we figured better safe than sorry to not have him running around with knives and forks and stuff. So we decided to do a little switching around of some things in the kitchen, and it didn't really take that long at all. Again, 2 minutes or less, but it just gave me so much peace of mind knowing that the knives especially are out of the reach of the toddler, and it is a little more inconvenient to have to go into the pantry to grab them instead of just using the drawer, but it's probably just temporary until we can really work through how to use knives safely and how to not raid the drawers in the kitchen. But again, that was just one of those things that was constantly weighing on my mind where I thought, oh, it'll just take 2 minutes or less, but I don't have the bandwidth to do it right now. But then once it was done, it only took a couple minutes, and I feel so good knowing that he's safe and we're better off for it as well. Next was adding the printer ink to our long-term office supplies box. Our printer is in our living room. That's just the best place for it in our apartment. And we had some ink refills that we used, but there were a few extras, and they've just been sitting on the printer for a couple months now. And all they needed to be done was just walk the ink refills to the office and put them in the long-term office supplies box. And I don't know why it took so long. Again, all these things nothing was urgent, nothing was hard. I just had to put it on my 2-minute or less project for things around the house. And then I really felt good being able to tackle those in this project day. And this next item was a team effort. I needed to retrieve a piece of art that fell behind our piano, and it had been sitting behind the piano for a few months. We have a piano in our room, and it's pretty heavy, and I was not able to move it by myself, so I asked my husband if he could help me move it super quick. We scooted it forward just a couple inches. I was able to reach behind it, grab the art behind it, and it was all set. It was so quick, and it was nice to have a little team effort that we could do together. And then the next item on the list was adding a couple more toys and activities to our Sunday church bag. I had a couple things just sitting on a shelf that needed to go into our little backpack that we take to church each Sunday with some little toys and activities. And so I just quickly put those items into the backpack, and they were all good to go for Sunday. Then the next thing was, I skipped one on my list, was washing the shower curtain. We hadn't washed ours in a little while, and it was starting to look a little gross. So just quickly took that off the hooks in the bathroom and took it off of the shower rod, and then put it in the wash and started that as a little load of laundry. And then finally was reorganizing the under the bed storage so we could get to our office supplies easier. We have a couple buckets that are small and kind of a longer size that fit underneath the bed. And we have a lot of office supplies in there, and a couple of them have been really hard to access for some reason. They just get stuck on each other, or they don't really move very well from underneath the bed. So I just took a couple minutes and shifted the boxes around a little bit so we didn't have to play Tetris each time. And it's been super nice now getting envelopes and different office supplies that we need. So I think that's only maybe 7 or 8 things that I did. And it did take pretty much the whole day to do all those things. Even though they sound pretty small and inconsequential, I did have a toddler in tow most of the time. He was helping me as much as, toddlers can. And I found that it did take some more mental energy to figure out, okay, we just finished lunch. Now we can do this task on my 2-minute or less task list. And nothing was super hard, as I mentioned, but I had to wait till my husband had a nice break from his studying. Then we could move the piano together. And then I had to make sure that our kitchen counter was relatively tidied up before I could start switching over the silverware drawer and using the counter as my landing spot for everything. So it did take me pretty much the whole day to fit these tasks into my schedule. So for you, it might take less time. Maybe for some of you, it might take more time, and you might spread it across a couple of days. But I love knowing that none of these tasks were weighing on my mind anymore once they were all written down and safe on my future projects list. And then I could make it a fun day of completing 2-minute or less tasks in this one context of my life. So this was the main example I have, but if you're someone who has a lot of email-related tasks or errands or different things on the computer, you can make it a fun day to run errands with a friend and say, hey, I need to go to 10 different stores today. It might seem kind of a lot, but if you want to just come with me super quick to make all these quick errands, we can make a fun day out of it and have some good catching up and conversation time. And I'm not sure if you actually have 10 errands you need to run, but something like that could be fun to strengthen the relationships in your life and make doing tasks just a little bit more fun. And I posted about this in our Step Mastery Facebook group, and I loved this comment that came in from Adele. Adele said, I like this idea very much. I think I will make it a routine instead of a project. 30 minutes a week will be dedicated to doing 2-minute tasks. During the week, I'll briefly note the 2-minute tasks and I'll do as many as I can in that 30-minute window, carrying over any that I can't do to the following week. I see this as a routine instead of a project because although the individual tasks may be one and done, there will always be more 2-minute tasks. And I love this idea from Adele. I think especially as family sizes grow, or you have a lot of things incoming with email or messages, or if you have a farm, or if you have a busy business, or if you are working with people in a community group, you might have a lot of these 2-minute tasks popping up in the different areas of your life. And it might make sense to make it a weekly routine to kind of do what I did, where I just have my little list and then I knock out as many tasks as I can in that one day or in an hour block of time or 30 minutes. But I love the idea of adapting it into a routine if that's what works best for you. At my stage of life, I feel like doing this one and done thing works pretty well for me. But I think that's the beauty of what we teach here at Learn, Do, Become and in our signature STEP program, which stands for Steps to Everyday Productivity. I love knowing that there's always a way to customize it and adapt it and make it more unique and personal to you. So that's the end of this official podcast. And I wanted to take a moment now to share a few messages that came in last week during our STEP Momentum graduation. For those who might not be familiar with it, we have our STEP program, which stands for Steps to Everyday Productivity. And we have an occasional group called Step Momentum. We just finished our most recent accountability group, but basically we went through the whole STEP program together in 4 weeks. And then we had a graduation ceremony at the end to celebrate everyone who was able to complete the program and build their very own command central, which manages all the different details and papers and items and things that come into their life. So we had just a really fun time talking with, I think about maybe almost 200 people on the graduation live. And the reason I wanted to highlight these is because even though we've finished the official Step Momentum accountability group right now, and we may do another accountability group like this later this year or in the future, but you don't need to wait for an accountability group to start before jumping into the STEP program. Inside the STEP program, we have timelines available so that you can complete the program in a couple weeks, or you can do it in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or even a couple months. Like, we have different options available for how long you'd like to take to go through the program and implement it. And of course, we also have so many amazing free resources here at Learn, Do, Become. We have a whole podcast directory that you can find at learndobecome.com/directory. And we have so many things on different social media channels. You can find us pretty much everywhere. So there is no shortage of free resources whatsoever. But if you're looking for some additional support into building your own command central and learning how to break down projects and build your routines list, and also manage all of the incoming items and thoughts, ideas, projects, all those things in your life, we would love to dive deeper into that with you in our STEP program. So I want to read a few of the messages that came in during our graduation, and some of them they're so fun. It was so awesome to connect with people live, since a lot of the work we do is by email or recording a podcast, and all of it's pretty much virtual. So it's always fun to be able to connect real people with the STEP program and see all the amazing things that you guys are doing. So this first message comes from Kathy, and it says, "Thank you to Team Learn, Do, Become. After some stops and starts, I made it through the program. I'm gradually changing some of my lifetime habits and think this will really bring me some peace and help when navigating through life." So I love that, Kathy. And these next two messages come from Leslie. The first one mentions how the printables inside our STEP program have been a game changer, and how Leslie's been able to pull out the printables for the daily and weekly reviews to complete them. And we have some really good worksheets that break down the whole process in there. So it was fun to hear that Leslie's a fan of those. And then Leslie also wrote, "I just signed up to be an Ariser because of the STEP Momentum Accountability Group. I love the energy, the enthusiasm, the support, and the community." So if you haven't heard about our Arise membership before, you can sign up for a free 60-day trial at learndobecome.com/arise. And this is a membership where we have a fun topic of the month. And this month, we're actually focusing on the Fun and Friends workshop. So we had our live call last week, and the full recording is ready in the members area. And you can learn how to incorporate more fun, more involvement with friends into the busy adult routines. And sometimes life gets monotonous or stressful, or we just feel bogged down by all our responsibilities. But this month's topic is so fun. It really is, because we're learning how to incorporate more fun into our adult lives. So thanks, Leslie, for sharing that, and we're so happy to have you here in Arise. Then the next message is from Megan, and it says, "I look forward to further implementing all that I have learned by completing the Momentum Accountability Group. I appreciate the graduation ceremony and all the work that the STEP and Learn to Become team puts into the program, so the rest of us can all make the desired progress. Congrats to all who completed STEP Momentum and to those who are still plugging away." So that was a sweet message there. The next one is from Lois, and it said, "Step Momentum was set up in a way that felt very doable, and that's why I've been able to complete the program. Yay!" So again, you don't need to wait for step momentum to start making progress through the STEP program. So if you weren't able to participate in our most recent session, we have the full timelines available, the exact same ones that we used as we went through our STEP Momentum Accountability Group inside our STEP program. And this final message is from Kay, and it says, I am so thankful for this group. Momentum also created momentum for me. And I think that's what we've seen so much of recently in our Step Mastery Facebook group, is that we've seen that just by being able to post in the group or being able to stay on track with the little timeline that we had available, it really does help build momentum in your own life because you have this clear goal and this clear vision of what you're working toward. And it's totally possible to complete your Command Central and set up this system that is going to change your life and also last a lifetime and be something sustainable that you can use long term. So thank you so much for joining me on this podcast today. Again, the 2-minute rule is so amazing and I use it all the time. For example, we had a dinner I was making last night just for our family, and I ran out of 3 ingredients while I was making it. I used them all up, and instead of saying, well, I'll just add those to my list later, I thought, well, it's 2 minutes or less. I have my shopping list right here on my phone where I have the recipe pulled up, and it took me only maybe 20 seconds to add those 3 items to my grocery list. And then we were able to actually pick them up during our grocery run today. So the 2-minute rule in practice is so wonderful, so amazing, and it definitely does save me from writing unnecessary tasks that would possibly clutter up my regular to-do list. So I love using the 2-minute rule, or sometimes even the 1 minute or 30-second rule if it's something super, super tiny that I find that pops up in my life. But in times that are really busy, in times where I'm not feeling good, or when it feels like those 2-minute tasks are just stacking up, this is where I love turning the 2-minute tasks into a project, and I can't wait to use it again in the future and see what that looks like. So again, thanks so much for joining us here on Learn, Do, Become Radio. You can find the full show notes at learndobecome.com/episode 277. And you can learn all about our STEP program that I've been talking about here in the podcast at learndobecome.com/step. And again, we'll also link those on the show notes. So have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you next time here at Learn, Do, Become.